Defense attorneys for the Osefos have said Carroll County prosecutors were on a fishing expedition in seeking new bank records for the couple, who were indicted last month for allegedly staging a burglary at their Finksburg home in order to claim losses. They want the subpoena squashed, but prosecutors responded saying the Osefos have approximately 40 credit and or debit cards, some of which are believed to be in company names, and have other instances using the aliases Pam Oliver and Eddie Hennessy in a deliberate attempt to mask their identity. Hello, Bravo bosses. This is the Bravo Investigator Podcast. I'm your host, Dana. And on our Monday Reality Roundup, we are talking about the secret lives of Mormon wives, the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, the Real Housewives of Potomac, the Real Housewives of Atlanta, the Real Housewives of OC, and then I'm also going to read a Variety article about the Real Housewives that I thought was really interesting. So happy Monday. I hope you all had a great weekend and a great week prior. It's been crazy. I actually have a really cool lineup of shows this week, so I'm very excited for that. Most of that revolves around the show Married at First Sight. So this is a show that I've been watching literally for 19 years. Okay, it is like, or maybe not. It's 19 seasons in. I've been watching it since the beginning. It is such a good show. It is now on Peacock. And it used to be on Lifetime, so I don't think maybe it got as much traction. But now that it's on Peacock, you got to check it out. So basically, they dropped it in a very similar way that they did Love is Blind, where they did it like in like sections of drops. The show just recently ended, and I'm going to be talking about the show later this week with Tane from the podcast Altar Call, which is such a great podcast. And yeah, I just love everything Married at First Sight. A lot of you guys didn't really show an interest in me covering it this season. So what I'm going to do is just a deep dive with Tane, and then we may have a special guest later on in the week. We'll see. We'll see. But yeah, it's just such a good show. If you are a fan of Love is Blind, it's also kinetic content. And it's a very similar concept, right? Except that you don't know what the person looks like and you get married to them at first sight, right? So that's wild. They changed up a lot of how the show is typically structured ever since it moved over to Peacock. So what I think I'm going to do before my episode with Tane, I think I'm going to do like maybe even it could end up being like 30 minutes. I don't know. It could end up being kind of long, where I kind of describe the concept of Married at First Sight, tell you some of its lore, tell you some of its biggest scandals, and then attach that onto my episode with Tane. So yeah, we've just got a lot of great things this week. Obviously, I'll also get you an episode where we cover the Real Housewives of OC Reunion Part 3 and the premiere of Southern Charm, which I'm so excited is back, which I will be covering regularly. But I will say that today's episode will be a bit shorter. I always say that and I'm always wrong, but I'm saying that because I have a lot of stuff to get to you guys later in the week. So I'm going to keep this one maybe a bit shorter. We'll see how it goes. But yeah, we have a lot of exciting stuff coming up. And guys, just don't forget to join the Patreon if you are able to, okay? It's patreon.com/the Bravo Investigator Podcast. $5 a month will get you 4 extra podcast episodes. It'll get you bonus content. It'll get you all the regular episodes on the main feed, ad-free, and it'll get you all those episodes early as well. So I'm going to be covering Surviving Mormonism next, which is that 3-part series that Heather Gay recently did. So I'm really excited about that. I've covered so many shows over on the Patreon already so far that if you join, you'll also have access to. So I did Next Gen NYC Season 1, Real Housewives of London Season 1, which is on Hey You. That was such a good show. I covered McBee Dynasty Season 2. I covered Honestly Cavallari Season 1. So lots of stuff that you can get over there if you want to join the Patreon. Remember, it's patreon.com/the Bravo Investigator Podcast. And remember to join it through like a browser, not through your phone, because it'll charge you incremental fees if you join through an app. So we should probably get into it, but one other announcement I wanted to make is that I am going to be starting my own YouTube channel in a couple of weeks. So you are seeing me here today on Monday on Hurrdat Entertainment's YouTube channel. You will see me here next Monday on Hurrdat Entertainment's YouTube channel. But after that, I will be having my own YouTube channel. And it'll pretty much be the same style as what we're doing here, where on Monday you have video reality roundup as per usual, and you can watch that on YouTube, just a different channel. And then all other episodes are probably going to be audio, except for when I'm doing an interview, and then it'll be video, just, because I'll want to show that off. So I think that that's the plan, and that's what we're going to do, but I will keep you informed, and there will obviously be links in the description. I'll make it super easy for you guys. And, obviously continue to subscribe here on Hurrdat Entertainment to watch all of their amazing shows. I am just going to move over and do my own YouTube channel. So hope you follow me over there, as well as staying over here and watching all of Hurrdat Entertainment's amazing shows. All right, so we had season 3 of The Secret Lives of Mormon Wives come out. So that's our first topic. I did a 2-part episode on Saturday covering the entire season. I haven't done a long one in a while. Like, it was basically 2 hours. I split it into 2 episodes because I had a lot to say. And, I don't typically do the normal recap thing. I'm normally like talking more about like the major themes and what's going on there. But I sort of felt like, okay, I have a lot more to say about this. So head on over there if you haven't checked out that sort of, I don't even want to call it a recap. I called it thoughts and feels, right? Because I just felt like that's just where we were going with it. So I gave you all of that content, but of course, because there's a new season that came out, there is tea, right? So it started off with Jessi from The Secret Lives of Mormon Wives doing the Viall Files last week. So I'm going to give you guys some of the details of her interview with Nick Viall so you don't have to listen to it. So basically the whole thing with her and Marciano, it happened because Jessi was going to LA to do Sheena's podcast, which is how Sheena is involved. And Demi and Jessi got into an argument over contracts. Demi was actually supposed to do the podcast, but then she bailed because of this fight. So then Jessi did it. So she goes out with Sheena, Brock, and Marciano. Marciano is, I guess, I don't know, she's being like kind of flirty with him, but that's what we saw happen. I guess like in the media, a lot of people thought something happened with them when they were out like a tom-tom, and that's not what happened. She said they all got drunk. Sheena, Brock, and Marciano went back to Jessi's hotel room, and then they left the party, or they left to go party more. And Marciano came back to her hotel room, Jessi's hotel room, alone, where they kissed, and he passed out. She said that they kissed one more time the next day in an Uber. So that's what we saw play out on the show in terms of her story. She says that they kissed twice and that they didn't have sex. It would sort of explain the whole Cialis thing, I guess, that he said on the show, and how he woke up where he had like cum in his pants. I guess he did stay the night, and so I guess it sort of gives that explanation. She explains how Jordan found out, which is basically 2 weeks after she kissed Marciano. Jessi, Jordan, and her sisters and their husbands all went on a trip to Las Vegas. Marciano lives in Las Vegas, and while there, Jessi was texting him. Nothing bad, but she was just like texting with him. Jordan noticed, and he took her phone. He went to the washroom, locked it. This sort of feels like Scandal all over again, doesn't it? Like taking the phone and then running off with it. He read everything. He also screen recorded and sent it to himself, also very Scandal. And then they had a huge blowout fight at their hotel in Vegas. So Jordan found out about Marciano 6 months before they started shooting Secret Lives of Mormon Wives. And when I say before, I guess before season 3, because remember, they're sort of always filming. He told her to lie and say that they were separated if the news ever came out, so her actions looked like less bad to the public. And she told Layla off camera that she lied about them being separated, because you'll recall in the first episode that when Layla approaches Jessi about this and says, "Hey, Marciano told me that you guys had this affair," she's like, "Oh, Jordan and I were separated." So she does admit now on the Viall Files that that was a lie. They were not separated at the time. So she said that once Jordan found out about her kissing Marciano, she said that he started basically like verbally abusing her, and it was getting really, really bad. Well, basically she said that he's always verbally abused her, and that's what we get a lot of in terms of her interviews that she did last week. She feels like that she was in a very verbally and emotionally abusive relationship with Jordan. So, she talks about it being a lot worse when the affair happened. It's odd that we call it an affair because, call it what you want to call it. It's 2 kisses and texting back and forth for 2 weeks. Call it what you want to call it. But basically, he called her a bitch. He called her a cunt. He also constantly threatened to expose and blackmail her to the world. He screen recorded all their texts, basically like the Jessi and Marciano ones, and had a TikTok draft saved ready to expose her and would threaten her with this constantly, right? So I can't even imagine like having my husband be blackmailing me and threatening me, right? But in current day, they are still together. The last 6 months have been really rough because, they've had lots of ups and downs with this playing out on camera. But, things apparently have gotten better and their faith has made it better. In terms of Jay-Z's styles, because I was very curious about like how she even got into that. She actually got her GED and didn't want to go to college. Her dad loaned her college fund, or gave her college fund to start her hair salon. And everyone thought that she was crazy, including her ex-husband. And within a year, she hired her family to work for her. And by her mid-20s, she was a multimillionaire. So that's fucking amazing. With regards to why her first marriage ended, which I was very curious about, her first husband, who was from a wealthy family, he used that family money to control her. She had to have like his parents on her bank account. And so they would always be like questioning her spending. So that was like a very just sort of controlling environment for her to be in. He was also on drugs and would play video games for hours and had zero ambition. So, hey, girl, you know what? I've definitely been there. So it wasn't a good situation for her. And so that's what we got basically from the Vile Files. And then she was also on the Not Skinny But Not Fat podcast. We got a little bit more detail there. So we do know that the affair only lasted 2 weeks. So she did mention that. She said that they didn't really talk about it again after they had sort of like worked it out until filming happened because it came up during filming. She does admit that she was too nice to Marciano during filming, which I agree, right? Because not even just inviting him to dinner, but like, if he's lying about you having sex with him, which, guys, please go back and listen to my episodes or watch the show, he's claiming that he had sex with Jessi. She's saying that's not true. She makes him take a lie detector, yada, yada, yada. But she is like insanely friendly to him. And it is weird because if he's lying about you like that, which is putting your relationship in jeopardy, just like color me confused. You know what I'm saying? She said that Jordan had suspicions about like something going on when she was in LA, but she denied it. And he told her, actually to text him in front of Marciano to like see if anything was going on, or sorry, not in front of him, in front of Jordan, right? Be like, oh, text Marciano just so that Jordan could see what he says. And I guess she was able to text him so quickly to say, hey, I'm going to text you, just act normal. And then so she did. So yeah, I mean, it's interesting because you're dealing with people who are lying here. And I am not supporting cheating in any sort of way, but I want to support women. But there's like little bits of lies here and there. So it's hard to know what's true and what's a lie. But like, wow, that's very difficult to sort of try to keep that all to yourself and to sort of hide that, especially when it comes to texting. But that's the thing about technology these days. Like you almost cannot cheat anymore or like keep it going for that long because technology will out you, basically. She says she does admit that there were some unresolved feelings with Marciano when they were filming because she had confided in like him about her marriage and like all the troubles that they were having, which makes sense, right? Like she sort of speaks about him in the same respect that like Jax would talk about Faith on Vanderpump Rules, where it was just like a body, right? It was just like somebody because she felt neglected and she felt like it could have been anyone. She just sort of felt that she needed something in that moment. But at the same time, she was confiding in him and relying on him. So there is that connection that she undeniably had. So I do respect her a lot for admitting that. She said that she thinks that he was in love with Demi and was trying to do what she wanted and appease her. She does talk about this whole like fan favorite thing. So apparently this sort of comes from I don't know. There was like some sort of game that they were playing. I don't even know if it's like a real thing or like a made up thing. But basically, we all know that Demi believes herself to be a fan favorite. And it just like to Jessi, she believes that just got to Demi's head. And so she came into season 2 just a completely different person. And she thinks that season 3 made her look even worse. And hey, I completely agree. Jessi said that Brett actually came to Jordan a couple of times about the whole Vanderpump Villa thing, about whether Demi had kissed Marciano or not, or whether he sexually assaulted her. And Brett said to Jordan, he felt like something was off and he felt like something had happened. So I'm so curious to hear from Brett's side. Like, obviously, he's defending his wife, but like, obviously he feels very weird about that whole situation too. He doesn't want to question his wife either because she's pulling this whole like victim blaming thing and everyone is making me feel bad and I was sexually assaulted and unwanted touch is unwanted touch. But I'm sure he's feeling very like mixed feelings as well. Apparently, what else did she say? So her first marriage that she was married for 5 years, she got married at 22 and divorced at 27. And with Jordan, she just like jumped into that marriage very, very quickly. So she was actually married to Jordan a few months after she got divorced the first time. So I didn't know that. That was very, very quick. And so she just didn't really have a chance to process her divorce. She said that she left the church after her first marriage because she felt ashamed because that culture is just very judgmental when it comes to divorce, which obviously we know from Heather Gay and other situations like that. So Marciano did a podcast. Of course he did, something called Simplistic Something. And he said basically that like he loved Jessi, which I don't really believe. He said that he was trying to get on reality TV, which obviously, right? Like, he actually was in Vanderpump Rules for a second. I don't know if you guys noticed that. Because he was friends with Sheena all last summer. So he was just like around and stuff. So that was kind of irky. And then he was I don't know, he was interviewed for an article. So I'm just going to read you guys this article. He says, I can't say too much, but let's just say that everything was looked over and I was 1,000% cleared of it, Brunette said. Because I do want to mention this, right? Like, if Demi is claiming that Marciano sexually assaulted her, is she pressing charges? Like, what's going on here? And even if she's not pressing charges, to say it publicly, it's like, okay, well, then the world is going to find out. And like, how come nothing is happening to Marciano? So, okay, here at least we get something. He says, I think everything was looked at from a production standpoint. While Brunette believes production cleared him of wrongdoing, he told Newsweek in his first interview since the accusations were made public that he's not aware of a formal investigation being conducted. He said he talked with production loosely about what was being done and that he believes having all the footage from filming the crossover episode of Vanderpump Villa helps his defense. Bunim Murray Productions confirmed to Newsweek that they reviewed all of the footage of Engelman and Brunette together from the second season of Vanderpump Villa and found Engelman's claims were unsubstantiated. Unsubstantiated. I mean, that's a difficult word, right? I mean, it's like inconclusive, unsubstantiated. I don't know. Unsubstantiated, like in my work, we have to say that something is unsubstantiated if we can't prove it. It doesn't mean that it didn't happen. It just means that we couldn't prove that it did. So I guess it depends on how we're defining the word unsubstantiated. It says we are unwavering in our commitment to maintaining a safe and respectful environment and ensure compliance training is provided on each season across all of our shows. We take allegations of sexual assault with the utmost seriousness, Bunim Murray Productions said in a statement to Newsweek. When the Secret Lives of Mormon Wives cast visited Vanderpump Villa, Engelman and Brunette appeared to develop a friendly relationship. While playing a game of truth or dare, Brunette was dared to kiss one of the women. It's not seen on the show, but Brunette said that he asked Engelman if he could kiss her on the cheek. Engelman reportedly said yes, and he kissed her on the cheek. Brunette told Newsweek another kiss on the lips occurred when the women were saying goodbye and leaving the villa. Engelman admitted to the kiss on the cheek, but vehemently denied this ever happened and said there were two other times that he grabbed her. Brunette denied that he sexually assaulted Engelman and said everything between them was consensual. He said he was being careful about his behavior because they're on camera and he knew anything inappropriate could be a problem for him. You got to be careful, dude. I'm just saying. Like it shouldn't be hard for you not to assault someone. Just saying. Anyway, I wanted it to go away because I was like, this isn't real. This is not happening to me right now, Brunette said. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is going to ruin my life. Vanderpump Villa shows the two separating from the group to have a therapy session, which Brunette said was a conversation spanning several hours that covered parts of their lives that led Brunette to believe that they had a connection. At the end of the show, he tells Engelman how much he liked getting to know her, and Engelman told him that he was special. The two hug, and Brunette said they exchanged contact information to keep in touch after the show. Engelman's version of the story was questioned by some of her castmates on Secret Lives. Several women noted that she previously said that she wasn't a victim, and they questioned why she continued to talk to him if he assaulted her. Engelman acknowledged that her response may seem odd, but defended herself, saying that there's no correct way to respond to unwanted touch. She also said that the women were victim shaming her. Ngatikaura, which is Jessi, agreed that there are many ways to handle a trauma like sexual assault, but still doubted Engelman's recollection of what happened. I appreciate her for absolutely sticking up for me because she knows that, like, that didn't happen, Brunette said, referencing Ngatikaura. And I'm definitely very appreciative of them doing that when they didn't have to whatsoever. Leave It defended Engelman throughout the season, telling Taylor Frankie Paul that they don't get to decide how Engelman feels about the interactions with Brunette. In the season finale, Engelman expressed frustration that she's not being believed by people who don't want to truly understand. I've never even told Marciano he was cute, Engelman said, but Marciano did sexually assault me. Brunette said that he was a little shocked and he didn't have any confessionals in the new season of Secret Lives of Mormon Wives to counter Engelman's narrative. He said he was told he would get confessional time and he was contracted for the whole season, but stopped filming once the accusations came out. While he'd like the opportunity to air his side of the show, he said he doesn't think Hulu would have him back on the Secret Lives of the Mormon Wives. I mean, no shit. Wait a minute, though. You would think he would be more scared because even when he posted that, that TikTok, and I talked about it in the recap episode where he posted like a certain 30-year-old Mormon wife scared got me disinvited to the Hulu event. Like, again, if you're being accused of sexual assault, you would act more scared. And that's why I'm so confused by all of this. And just, I know it's a storyline in the sense that this is an actual storyline on the show, but how much of this is fake and how much of this is real? It's also very confusing for me, which I talked about in my other episode, because I believe women, but then I'm not sure if I believe this circumstance. And when a woman isn't when a person isn't, truthful about a circumstance like this, it discredits other people who come forward later on. And it also makes people not want to come forward later on, right? I'm just saying all of those things in totality just to say them because I still don't know how I feel about this. And it's like, I felt icky about it when it was happening in real time. I felt icky about it in recapping it in the episodes. And I feel even more icky about it talking about it now, right? Yes, every person is allowed to have their own story and feel assaulted if they want to feel assaulted. So I guess for the purposes of continuing to talk about this show and this narrative, I'll just be giving you the information because I just don't feel comfortable having an opinion on it, which I hope is fine. Okay, I need some water. So Demi posted a story recently, I guess, in response to all of this, and said that the restraint I've been able to demonstrate, despite the absolute utter nonsense and lies being spewed about me all week, should seriously be studied. I'm so freaking proud of myself. I have never been able to stay this composed or show this much self-control in my life. Thank you to my haters for allowing me to prove to myself how capable I really am and for giving me the opportunity to build even more self-confidence, respect, and grit. What doesn't kill you makes you stronger if you allow it to every single time. Also grateful to see those who remain with common sense intact and can very clearly see through the BS. Hopefully you all have a wonderful Saturday. I honestly think she's going to lose her husband. I do. Like, not even just this situation, like fame changes people, right? It just does. And I think she has changed a lot. And I think it's changing her marriage. And she doesn't even have friends in this group anymore. So she doesn't even have like that tie. I think she's sort of dealing with what Jen Affleck was dealing with before, where, she needs to be in this group or wants to be in this group, but doesn't really have friends or allies in the group. But it's also ruining her marriage. You know what I mean? I don't know. I don't feel great about Demi right now. I agree that like as the seasons progress, we all sort of like her less and less. And I just have a feeling her family's going to start to feel the same way. Those are some of my thoughts. Okay, let's move on to the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills and our weekly update on Denise and Aaron's divorce. This week in Denise and Aaron's divorce, he is begging friends for money as he fears that he will end up homeless. LOL, Aaron, nobody cares. Beg friends. How is this even happening? This was reminding me of sort of the Rachel Lindsay situation with Brian Abasolo, because like you people have the capability of making money, okay? Go on OnlyFans, friend. Go on Cameo. Go drive an Uber. You're an able-bodied person. You have skills. You can literally go online and, this is sort of what I've learned recently. It's not that simple, but like, you go online and you create like a page or a persona about yourself that is linked to a niche that you're good at. His is spouting stuff about medical things that he doesn't really understand, right? Like, sure, Go do that online. I'm sure you could scam so many people into believing your BS about like stem cell shit, right? Go do that. It's insane to me. Or go back to Canada. We don't want you, but go back to Canada if that's where you feel you need to be. If you were at this place where you have $0 left, what does it say about you? It just shows then that Denise Richards was carrying your entire life. Does it not? And is that the kind of person that you want to be? Because again, you are able bodied. There is no reason why you could not be working right now. And have you not noticed that nobody feels bad for you, man? No one has felt bad for you, okay? So stop the begging, stop all this crap, stop going to TMZ. No one's listening. Okay, so let's move on to the Real Housewives of Potomac and our friends, Happy Eddie and Wendy. So we're just finding out a lot more weird stuff between these two. And apparently they were using like aliases and like 40 different credit cards. Okay. So it just gets like weirder and weirder. There's this article that says that prosecutors are seeking additional financial records of Real Housewives of Potomac star Wendy Osefo and her husband Eddie Osefo that they say will show a pattern of excessive spending and support a motive in their fraud case, new court filings show. Defense attorneys for the Osefos have said Carroll County prosecutors were on a fishing expedition in seeking new bank records for the couple, who were indicted last month for allegedly staging a burglary at their Finksburg home in order to claim losses. They want the subpoena squashed, but prosecutors responded saying the Osefos have approximately 40 credit and or debit cards, some of which are believed to be in company names, and have other instances using the aliases Pam Oliver and Eddie Hennessy in a deliberate attempt to mask their identity. Now, what do you think of those names, right? If you were going to try to defraud the government, what would your alias name be? Okay. Would it be as clever as Pam Oliver or even as witty as Eddie Hennessy? Okay, guys, I'm very curious what yours would be. So prosecutors also say Wendy Osefo falsely denied using PayPal, Venmo, and Cash App to pay for jewelry. They state the state anticipates seeing purchases as well as returns on the financial records, prosecutors wrote. Additionally, the state expects such documentation to show a pattern of excessive spending, supporting motive in the case. The state avers that insurance fraud is a financial crime, and in that, the amount of debt owed by the Osefos jointly, individually, and by the businesses that they own is highly relevant to their motive. The Osefos then came out with a joint statement from their legal team. So it says, at the outset, police failed to properly investigate the initial burglary despite clear indication of a break-in, displaying clear bias against the Osefo family. The Osefos heard nothing but silence from the police for over 18 months, despite complete cooperation and requests for updates. It is common knowledge that other Real Housewives cast members have also been victimized after documenting their travel on social media, yet none face this level of scrutiny or criminal charges. I mean, literally, Kathy Hilton and who else was it? Kathy Hilton and Sutton. Both of them were robbed while at BravoCon, by the way, you guys, which I mentioned on my Patreon only reality roundup that I did last week. So head over there if you want to hear a few of these other things. But it is kind of wild how much the Real Housewives are burglarized. But I guess, again, it's because of what they're posting on social media and it's tipping burglars off to where they are. We believe it is deeply unjust for the Sheriff's Office and the Office of the State Attorney for Carroll County to publicly expose confidential financial information about Eddie and Wendy Osefo. What is most disturbing is that the state appears to have begun investigating only after charging the Osefos, which is a highly irregular approach that raises serious concern about motive and fairness. The public release of the family's private financial details serves no lawful purpose and only invites conclusory opinions about a case the state is obviously still investigating. The Osefos have never used an alias on any financial application. This allegation is false and misleading. Such names were used for the delivery of packages following their lawful purchase to safeguard the identity of very public figures. Very public figures, you guys? Very public figures? Okay. It is ironic for the state to assert or exaggerate the existence of any purported debt in connection with this accomplished professional couple. They always have to mention the degrees. Due process is paramount for the administration of justice, and its breach by misleading the public with a false narrative has only compounded the harm. The defense is confident the court will prevent any further violation of the Osefos' right to a fair trial. Okay, so that's a lot of stuff about other stuff. Here's the thing. I'm not following this case very closely. I could be if you guys wanted me to care about it. I'd have to look into all of this, right? Like, I don't know if this is true that they're using these fake names for packages. That could be true, right? Like, I don't know if the police are out to get them. That could be true. I just don't really have the time to look into it, but it's all very interesting. It's definitely very interesting. Okay, in Real Housewives of Atlanta news, Kandi Burruss and Todd Burruss break up after 11 years of marriage, which is so insane, right? Like, I don't know. So this article came out from People over the weekend. It says that they've had a difficult and emotional time. So they split on, or they announced the split on November 21st. They asked for privacy, grace, and understanding as they navigate this transition with their family. The couple got married in April 2014 and had 2 children together and were married for 11 years, right? So, I remember her all the way back at the beginning of Atlanta. I remember she had dated someone who died, which was insane. And then she met Todd. He was a producer. He was a Real Housewives of Atlanta producer, and he came with them on one of their cast trips. And that's where they sort of like met and fell in love. And Mama Joyce is gonna love this, okay? Because she hates him. She hates him. And I never really understood why. I always liked Todd, so I feel bad, right? And they work so hard to have those 2 kids together. He's been in Riley's life for a really long time. I think he's been a really good role model and father figure. But, life and show business, it's really difficult for couples to stay together. And, but at the same time, they also have so many businesses together. So I hope she has a prenup, or I hope they figure that all out, because yeah, that could get messy and that could get scary. But I could see them as being the kind of family that kind of just ends up staying together for a really long time, doesn't really divide the businesses, spends a lot of time together as a family. That's my anticipation, but you really never know. Divorce does crazy things to people. Okay, let's move on to the Real Housewives of OC, which is our last topic. And then I just want to talk about this Variety article that I thought was interesting. Okay. So we had the reunion part 3 for the Real Housewives of OC, which I will recap at some point. I will get to it. But Gretchen was doing some AMAs, and there were a few of them that sort of struck me. Okay. So I guess Alexis Bellino, or Alexis Jansen now. I guess she was on Carlos King's podcast because she recaps with him. And she said that the cyber analyst person that Gretchen hired to see if these posts that she liked were real or whatever it was is Slade's friend. And so she responded to that, LOL, no, that woman will not stop talking about Slade and I this season. I have not seen her or spoken to her in years, and she knows nothing about our life. So for her to think she knows anything about this situation is ridiculous. She wasn't involved in any of it, and it just makes her look bad talking about it. The report was done by a former CIA analyst that is not Slade's friend, and the parent company handles government contracts. But the main point of all this is we haven't seen that. Where is the report? Where is any information? Right? There was a lot of smoke, but no receipts, you need Heather being we need the receipts. Someone else did an AMA to her that said as a gay man myself, the hate rhetoric shows up on my feed too, not a reflection on you. And then Gretchen responded, thank you for saying that. I would like to be clear that I followed a lot of left-wing accounts and a lot of right-wing accounts because I no longer had TV, and this is how I received my news. When did you not have TV? I don't know. I did not follow an account because of the hate rhetoric. If they became more aggressive over time with their posts, then I was unaware of that, and that is why I apologized if following a particular account offended anyone, and I took the steps to unfollow anyone, any accounts that could be deemed as hateful rhetoric. I did not like over 200 posts with hateful rhetoric. That is another lie. And the cyber analysis report proves that. Where's the report? It is also confirmed that the post Tamra showed Gina and that was brought forward was a fake/fabricated post. From my understanding, the cyber analysis company used what is called Wayback technology. Okay, I actually know what Wayback is, to confirm that the post had never existed on the internet. So no, it was not just taken down. The report was given to the network in production. Okay, well, can we see it? And then somebody said, was that Slade on the call? And wouldn't production not allow it if it was? And then Gretchen responded, exactly. No, that was not Slade on the call. And you are correct. Production would have never allowed that if it was. Even Andy confirmed that it wasn't Slade or me behind any of that. They had to verify the source and have them sign a release. Also, at that time, I was unaware a person had reached out to the other women and that they had all filmed together. Remember, I was so hurt by what had happened in Amsterdam. I wasn't talking with the ladies at that time. And also, other bloggers have come forward since then and also claimed Tamra was leaking things. So it wasn't just that caller. Okay, I don't believe that it was Slade because I do think production would like have nipped that in the bud, but I don't. It's still, again, and we'll talk about this in the recap. Like, there's no proof that it's Tamra either, right? Like, we were given like no receipts. Okay, and then Slade made a post on Instagram too that unfortunately I will read. It says, "I'd hope you'd all be smarter than that. The reason Andy supported Gretchen is that there's an overwhelming evidence against Tamra. Where?" And her little network of accounts. Seems like you may be included in that network. Tamra has been caught in possession of screenshots of fake posts that have been altered by putting Gretchen's name on it. Gretchen has stood up for this community her entire life, not just because it was cool to do so, not because she has kids that have come out, but because it's the right thing to do. She supported this community long before anyone on this cast did, including Heather. I would say that. If I were you, I just wouldn't say that. Anyway, Gretchen has never had to apologize to the community, but Tamra has. Tamra was the one caught liking her son's anti-trans rant and then backpedaled when she got caught. I don't remember that. The major media articles are everywhere about that, but you're not going to be reporting on that. You've been manipulated by Tamra to report on fake social media posts. The report is clear and the truth will come out. The report was done by a very well-known company that does government research. Ooh, government research. That's specific. Andy and the network have seen it all. Where? Mention it all. None of this would ever have been an issue this season, but it was orchestrated by Tamra. Naked Wasted was orchestrated by Tamra. The embellished lie about Gretchen being drugged by Tamra was orchestrated by Tamra. She is the one who brought it all up. Maybe you should look through your own bias and inquire about the facts. You hated the season, well then take a hard look at who is the obvious cancer infecting the authenticity of the show. For God's sake, she got caught lying about autism. She swore in the life of her children she didn't do it. How gross is the podcasts are all coming forward with proof that she did it. Okay. So I'm glad that the season is over and I never want to see, honestly, Slade or Gretchen ever again in my life. Okay, so let's just talk about this article. So this is by Kate Arthur, who I love. She is the director at large of Variety. And so she interviewed, find the beginning of this article, Frances Berwick, who is the chairman of Bravo and Peacock Unscripted. So I thought this was like a really interesting article. So I thought that I'd read it to you guys. So it's called Bravo Boss, which is funny because that's what I call you guys. Bravo Boss, Frances Berwick, and the joy of BravoCon, and who can be forgiven by the network, Karen Huger in brackets, and who can't, Jen Shaw probably. It's Sunday, the final day of BravoCon, and inside a cavernous space within Caesars Forum is Las Vegas. Frances Berwick, chairman of Bravo and Peacock Unscripted, appears thrilled by the controlled chaos that's unfolded here. Joy is a bit of an overused word this weekend, but I think it makes people happy and it brings people together, Berwick says of Bravo fans' attachment to the network. When you look around these halls, these are all these people who are making new friends based on this shared passion. Despite torrential rains the day before and street closures for the upcoming Formula One race causing the always snarled strip to be borderline inaccessible, yes it was, the event has been a huge and profitable success. At the sold-out conference, now in its fourth iteration, 30,000, wow, I didn't know that, 30,000 Bravo faithfuls have come from all over the world to take in roughly 50 panels and live events featuring more than 160 Bravo celebrities, along with nightly tapings of BravoCon Live with Andy Cohen at Planet Hollywood, which airs this week. Amid 20 corporate sponsors, including Lexus, T-Mobile, Hilton, Carnival Cruise Lines, and more, attendees, Bravoholics, to use the term of art, have had a blast buying merch and other wares at the Bravo Bazaar, mingling with talent, and paying to take selfies with them all weekend. And it's safe to say that there's been some drinking. One wasted, seemingly woman at Cohen's Ask Andy panel Sunday morning inquired about his penis size. Yeah, I told you guys about that in my BravoCon episode. I was like, what the hell? It was 10:45 a.m. Bravoholics came here to party, to whoop it up, and why not? It shows like the Real Housewives were once secret, shared guilty pleasures, as Berwick puts it. Now, people are very overt about it because she asked rhetorically, why would you feel guilty about it? I love that. A year ago this week, Comcast CEO Brian Roberts announced that the company would be spinning off NBC Universal's cable channels into a new company, all except for Bravo, which would stick with the mothership. That's how vital it is as a feeder into NBCU's streamer Peacock. At the time, Berwick, who joined Bravo in 1996, oversaw unscripted across channels like E! and Oxygen, but now she's hyper-focused on Bravo and Peacock. It was a statement, Berwick says, of Roberts' decision to keep Bravo in-house about how valuable Bravo is to the overall ecosystem, and also how successful it has been on Peacock. Bravo shows stream on Peacock the day after they premiere on the network, and it's a mutually beneficial relationship and a powerful symbiosis. That's a word I use when I talk about this. That's so funny. As Peacock's culturally dominant Love Island was streaming nightly last summer, drawing 18.4 billion minutes for season 7, according to Peacock data. Its extraordinarily young audience, 50% of its viewers are under 30, also began watching Bravo series The Valley and Next Gen NYC. Berwick has been out and about all weekend, both an approachable presence in the press room and watching as many panels as she can. She's also tried to meet most, if not all, of the 160 plus reality stars who trekked to Las Vegas to be here. It's probably an exhausting weekend, Berwick says, but I think it really is quite rewarding. And she adds, they also like interacting with each other. This is a shared experience, which is, again, something I always say. BravoCon is enormously expensive to put on, Berwick says, but with corporate sponsorship bringing in the lion's share of the revenues and the ticket fees contributing, without add-ons for the nighttime events, a 3-day general admission pass costs $672.61 without tax, and a 3-day VIP pass costs $1,463.52 without tax. And remember, that's American, you guys, not Canadian. It is a profitable enterprise. It's also a marketing extravaganza with an accompanying explosion of press around the shows and their stars, especially with the Real Housewives franchise celebrating its 20th anniversary next year. But as she surveys the increasingly bleak media landscape, Berwick sees an even more important benefit from the gathering. It allows her to gain insight from the fans. We want Bravo to live on into the future in a sea of dying television brands, she says. This should run and really be successful. BravoCon aspires to be what Bravo shows so often embody: escapism, the passion, the loyalty, the community, Berwick adds. It's just really fun. Speaking in her calming British accent, Berwick discusses all things Bravo with variety, including how the network plans to celebrate Real Housewives turning 20, why she thinks the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City is firing on all cylinders, which former Bravo stars might be welcome back to the network, and who probably won't be. So it's sort of like a series of questions and answers. So the question is, do you ever look at linear ratings anymore? We tend to look more at our total audience delivery, which requires a lot more patience. I'm not going to lie to you. I still look at the live same linear numbers, and that probably won't change for a while. And those are still meaningful numbers in terms of overall reach. But increasingly, you have to get very comfortable with waiting 7 days so we actually start getting a full picture. And then the longer tail, especially on Bravo shows, it's really sizable. I don't even know how all that kind of thing works, to be honest with you guys, now that like we stream and we don't watch things when they're on. The number of subscribers for Peacock has been stuck this year at 41 million. Stuck. How much is unscripted part of Peacock's growth potential? We're thinking about growth in 2 ways. One is obviously new subscribers. The other one, which is as important, is engagement. And Bravo viewers, they're the most loyal, both in terms of their consumption on linear and the most loyal viewers on Peacock. So they have great lifetime value. Yeah, we do. They watch lots of Bravo shows and they watch lots of other content too. So they are some of the most valuable subscribers that we have for Peacock. It is safe to say that you've concluded that docu-soaps aren't what Peacock originals should be. Like McBee Dynasty migrated to Bravo, and the new Ultimate Girls Trip is going to be on Bravo. Is Peacock for competition shows? And the response is not entirely. We've actually had a lot of success with specific types of follow docs on Peacock. Nelly and Ashanti, which we launched this summer, did incredibly well. We just launched Tiffany Haddish Goes Off. Bravo IP, though, should start on Bravo, and there's no reason for it not to. And so when we just announced our celebration for the 20th year of Real Housewives with the Real Housewives, the Ultimate Road Trip, we'll start it on Bravo. Do you want to throw some Love Island stats at me that will shock me? Someone told me an astounding number of the viewership watches it on their phones. As an old person, I was like, what? Around 30% for the consumption of Love Island was on mobile, phones, tablets, whatever. So that's already a very high statistic. The other great stat is 50% of the audience for Love Island was 30 or under. I'm actually more surprised that 50% of the audience for Love Island is over 30, which I think speaks to its huge show that sucks people in and it's great storytelling, and you get fully engaged and it becomes this destination. There's something for everyone. It's broader than you think the appeal would be. And why do you think that Love Island USA exploded 2 summers ago? What are the lessons that you take from that? I mean, the franchise is huge globally. CBS took a shot on it, but they're not the right audience for it. So it needed to come to streaming with a much younger and broader audience. But also, we really lent into figuring out great casting. It's not easy. The first season of Love Island on Peacock, we were still very much in COVID. It's hard to cast these shows when you're doing it remotely. I think its casting was great for season 6 and 7. Adding Ariana Madix to the mix. Yeah, I was going to say, like, if they don't say that this is because of Ariana Madix, like, hello. So she's out so empathetic and relatable and already known. And obviously, she had a following from Bravo viewership, who then followed her into that, then got sucked in. And then I think we've done a really good job in terms of getting the social word out. And I completely agree. Like, I had never watched this show. I never intended to watch this show until Ariana became a part of it, right? And it did bring in that full audience, right? And a lot of people say that, like, in terms of Vanderpump Rules, like where I live, it's not a show that a lot of people my age watch here, but in the States it is. And a lot of the younger viewership for Vanderpump Rules apparently started more recently once it showed up on Netflix, right? So it's sort of like who you're following and what you're following. It sort of makes sense, right? The question is, what are the biggest challenges in the year 2025 to create new hits? I think it's getting the word out. You can create really great content, but then connecting it to the audience and getting that awareness is absolutely critical. And you have to pull every single lever across multiple marketing tactics, communications, press, everything. That is one of the secrets of Bravo. There's a lot of social support and the fans evangelizing for you. That really is incredibly potent. That is something so interesting and something that I thought about recently where I'm just like, hey, wait, am I just like advertising for Bravo for free? I am, aren't I? Like every time I'm posting, I'm like, watch on Bravo, watch at 8 p.m. on Bravo. So I was just sort of at this moment recently where I'm like, yeah, we do that. With something like McBee Dynasty, which seems like it's a word of mouth hit, that's so not a Bravo show, but it worked. And the response is, for years, we were very singularly focused on particularly types of shows and a particular type of cast. And what we've actually learned is our audience has very broad tastes, and we were not really serving a piece of the audience. We did the first season of McBee for Peacock, but what we actually saw was the key ingredients of Bravo shows were all there: the immersive, addictive storytelling. We lent more in season 2 into the female characters, who are all great, as well as our 3 male leads. And it has resonated, but it's also brought in a broader audience. Historically, we've lent into stories that were more aspirational, but there's a lot of different levels of aspiration. And as long as there's relatability and there's drama and humor and all the ingredients of a Bravo show, then it'll work. We're very happy to have them here. And yes, they stand out because they're wearing cowboy hats, but they actually feel like they fit. I completely agree. I love the show. And I feel like, even though it's about cowboys and men, there's still like lady drama, family drama, financial drama. We have people going to jail. So to me, it feels very Bravo and it fits there. I met Jesse McBee at BravoCon. He was so sweet. So I completely concur. They said, speaking of former talents, the Sweet Home Oklahoma ladies are now the hashtag resistance. And the response is, who I still love. Yes, I will say they come up in conversation. Pumps and Jennifer, yes, they're great. Would you ever consider bringing them back to the network? Wouldn't rule anything out. The last time we were sitting here 2 years ago, the so-called reality reckoning was top of mind. Now that it's not a constant barrage of lawsuits and threats of lawsuits, can you reflect on how much it has affected decision-making at Bravo? And the response is, I don't think it affected decision making, honestly. We've kept on doing what we do. And as I've said before, I think there were certain things that were changing anyway about our production protocols, and we've continued to do that. We want to make sure that our sets are absolutely in line with our values. And so we've continued to press ahead with that, but we were doing that anyway. There's not been any sort of sea change as a result. So that's interesting. I mean, the reality reckoning did sort of just fall off and not really go anywhere. And, you know, Bethany did give up on it. I mean, I'm not saying, I don't know. I still feel bad for the people who are like unionized and don't get like residuals and stuff like that. So I don't know. I guess we'll see. But are there any good things that came out of the concerns that were raised? And the response is, there were things that we were doing anyway. We want to make sure that we have our cast and our production crews well-being top of mind. We're very focused on things like alcohol consumption, and that goes for all of our productions. And there's a reason that there's a 2-drink maximum on shows like Love Island, which there is. And I would not attribute that to any outside force. That came from within our organization, and that's about evolving generally. At Andy Cohen's Ask Andy panel, the person was talking about season 2 of The Valley. Someone asks about how dark is too dark. How much do you think about that? And the response is, I will say that we think about it. We're an escapist brand. When viewers come to us, they're like, I want to escape, but I also want to relate. But we're fellow people, we're following people's real lives, and we are as authentic as we possibly can be. We're not overly producing situations. We're following people, fly on the wall style. And sometimes things happen. Life happens. I'm not going to lie. I thought this season of The Valley, it was pretty dark. But that was following people's real lives. And I have to say, and I've heard the feedback this week, and I'm pretty sure the cast members of The Valley have heard it from a number of people who felt deeply moved because there were cast members. Sorry, guys, I need water. Sorry. I'm like dying. Sorry, a number of people felt deeply moved because there were cast members going through things that were similar to their journeys and difficulties. And I think that's really powerful. Okay. I'm actually going to stop there. It does go on, but it is pretty interesting. If you want to read the rest of the article, head over to variety.com to read it. I'm just like choking on my own spit right now. So I feel like, all right, I should probably end it there. That would make sense. So I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. You will see me back tomorrow with an episode with Tane to discuss season 1 of Married at First Sight. We're going to break the entire thing down. And then you will also see me later in the week for some further amazing episodes. I love you, BBs, and I will see you next time.
Thank you for listening to the Bravo Investigator Podcast in partnership with Hurrdat Media. You can watch full-length videos on Hurrdat Entertainment's YouTube channel. Follow me on Instagram and TikTok at The Bravo Investigator. If you enjoy the show, please leave me a 5-star review. Love you, BBs. See you next time.
A Hurrdat Media Production.